Hey everyone, welcome back to some new malicious compliance stories. I hope you had a great day. In today's episode we have a story about a boss that needs to learn how to run his own business. So sit back, relax and enjoy the video. The first story is called Don't Bother the Other Techs. 15 years ago and fresh out of my course as an electronics technician, I got hired by a local telecom OEM. I nailed the interview exam because I was fresh out of class and knew the formulas. I went through the in-house soldering certification and got tossed into production at almost double what minimum wage was. We made video-on-demand boards for head-end equipment at the provider level. I was taught how to run the testing and repair the command failures for 4 video boards and 2 chassis boards. My shift was from 3:30 to midnight, so for most of my shifts the product support techs have gone home. I had a few boards that I was having issues fixing, and the senior tech on my line has long since specialized to the chassis side. But he did tell me who could help me with the video boards on another line that had been on this product for 4 or 5 years. So I would wander 50 feet away to the other line to discuss the problem. We're talking 5 minutes about doing this on test X, getting this reading, but the documentation isn't helping. Try these 3 parts. Now we're putting out 150 boards in 8 hours, and I would start my shift with 30 or 40 boards that had failed a production test and have been put on the repair shelf. I got really good at fixing 4 or 5 issues, and day shift wouldn't even try to fix those ones because I had got it down to a science after 3 or 4 months. On average, I would have to ask the senior tech for advice once or twice a shift. About 6 months in, my line manager wanted to ask me something and I was on the other line. She flipped, insisted I stay at my repair station and not bother the other techs. Deal. I will only work on the boards that I can fix easily. Cue malicious compliance. After about 2 weeks, my productivity had dropped from 50 boards to about 35 to 40 a shift. I was only doing the boards for those 4 or 5 issues I could fix blindfolded. This means 4 boxes instead of 5, and I would now waste an hour or so reading the documentation without fixing boards. And on the days that I just spent on programming boards and sending away to swap or ship, it was more like 20 repaired. After a month of not asking for advice, my productivity was down to half. But all my work and time was well documented in the system, including the days I'd work on 1 board all shift. When she got her metrics for the month, I was pulled aside and quietly told I could ask the senior techs for advice again. I transferred from production into warranty after a year and created the documentation for a new product report for wireless data. 5 test failures, 8 possible parts, and repairing pallets of 300 units a week myself, including swapping chips that I wasn't allowed to do in production. When I left there after 4.5 years, I had been promoted twice more and was giving directions to that production manager's direct boss. The next story is called Boss Forces Me to Take Time Off. I used to work at this one coffee shop, my first chain coffee shop, after working only at local or family-run ones. Simply put, it was hell. The owners would micromanage everything without knowing anything about how the business ran. They never listened to their staff and only cared about the money. Typical out-of-touch owners of a business. I was hired to replace a manager that had walked out of one of their locations, leaving it with only part-time staff. I was told I was being hired on as the acting manager until they either hired someone else or they felt I would be a good fit for the position after my 6 months probation. I won't go into everything that went wrong, because there's a lot, but to summarize, it was literal hell. I was expected to cover all no-shows, which had me working 90 to 100 hours a week. I wasn't allowed to fire anyone, no matter how many things they did wrong, and any changes I wanted to implement were shut down. I was stressed, overworked and irate as heck when the owner comes in to talk to me about sales for the store. We weren't making enough to run the hours I had scheduled, and he wasn't going to pay me any more overtime. I would only work the hours I'm scheduled, and if someone no-showed, I had to have someone else cover those shifts. I tried to explain to him that I only came in when no one else would cover. It just so happens that the people he allowed to continue to work here had terrible availability. Making the schedule was already hard enough. Getting someone other than myself to come in on the day off was next to impossible. On top of that, I had to learn the ropes myself. There was no one to train me, so all the managerial knowledge, ordering, scheduling, I learned myself. No one other than me knew how to order coffee, had the numbers for the repair guys, or anything other than making coffee and using the till. But he wasn't hearing any of it. All I'm hearing is excuses. This is your store. If you can't handle running it, I start looking for someone who will. Wasn't that the plan though? It's been 3 months since my probation period ended and you never gave me the manager position, so I assumed you were looking for someone to take over. I think it's in your best interest to take some time off, start thinking about your position here and whether you actually want to start moving up. I had mentioned in the interview that I was looking forward to working my way up in the business. I can't, there's no one to cover me. You are taking this time off. Is this a paid break? No, consider this a time out for you to get yourself sorted. Take the 2 weeks to rest and we'll see what your position will be like when you get back. Owner, I can't really afford to take that amount of time off. I can't even take 2 days without having to come in and cover. Don't worry about the business right now, it will run without you. Now, to put it into perspective, I was basically the manager at that point. I made the schedules, I did the orders, I knew the codes for the safe and the alarm. I wasn't allowed to hire someone to assist me and no one worked enough time to be able to cover even half my shifts. I knew this, the staff knew this, and the customers knew it. I made sure to block all work numbers and spent those 2 weeks looking for another job. I managed to find one after a few days that paid significantly more. I sent my resignation email to payroll and the owner. I knew he never checks them. Then I deleted my account off the point of sales system. Being a manager meant that I had access to it from home. And then I spent the rest of the leave catching up on well-deserved sleep, having blocked all work numbers. I'm not getting paid, so I'm not working. According to my coworkers, things started going wrong the next day. One of the openers didn't show, as the next staff member didn't have keys. The owner wasn't answering his phone, so they left a message. He didn't show up until one of the regulars called, asking if the place was closed down. He showed up 4 hours after they were supposed to open. Orders weren't done, inventory was missed, 4 no-shows. You name it, it went wrong. He tried every way he could to get a hold of me, even using a customer's phone to call me. Too bad I didn't answer any calls that weren't in my contacts already. After 2 weeks, I turned my phone back on and got a call the same day from the owner. We agreed to meet the next day. So, you've had some time to think. I have. It's really given me perspective on my position here. We can start you back on your normal hours for now, and we are looking for a manager to take on more of your responsibilities. Oh, that's good. I'm actually quitting. He was silent for a few minutes. I think he was waiting to tell him I was kidding. Sucks for you, buddy. I'm serious. I've already emailed payroll and removed my login from the computer. Here are my keys. Good luck. And with that, I left. He tried calling me a few times, but stopped once I told him to check his email. I was on okay terms with some of the staff that worked there, and apparently the majority of them had quit after I had left. The owner did find a replacement pretty quickly, but without anyone to train them. The owner didn't know anything about running the business. They were screwed from the get-go and left pretty soon after they were hired. I'm still checking reviews from customers and employees. They have consistently sucked for the past year and seem to be on a downward trend over the past year. The third story is called Check Your Emails Every Day. So I was working for a small private ambulance company that ended up getting bought out by a larger corporation. Corporate sends out a directive that all employees must check their work emails at least once every 24 hours, no exceptions. Now, I'm a lowly part-timer, so it would occasionally be weeks in between my shifts. The fun part is I usually played field supervisor on the shifts that I worked. So, in order to be in compliance with the corporate directive, I set my work email to update every day at the same time on my phone. I would then log my 15 minutes of email checking on my paycheck, so I would also be in compliance with state and federal payroll laws. I also made sure to inform as many employees to do the same. Didn't check your email while you were on shift because you were too busy trying to figure out what made Grandma's ambulance ride to the doctors medically necessary? That's okay, just check it when you get home. Make sure you put it on your timesheets though. It took a couple of pay cycles, but eventually I got a call on my day off asking why I'm logging 1.75 hours on weeks that I didn't even work. I explained that I was just following the corporate directive. I was told at that point that I no longer was able to log those hours. I told them to give me that in writing, as that goes against labor laws. Needless to say, the directive to check emails every day got revoked. But I did put down 30 minutes on my timesheet for the call, as it took 22 minutes. The last story is called Just Doing What I'm Paid For. Many years ago, I worked at a cafe while studying in the evenings. I was employed as a dishwasher initially, but after a few weeks they realized I had cooking experience, so they started asking me to help out with food prep and basic cooking when the chef wasn't there. Fast forward a few weeks, and I am pretty much cooking or doing prep every shift, and since they had the hourly rates for each position on the wall, I had a look, and as a kitchen hand was entitled to about an extra $1.20 an hour. Not a lot, but it adds up over the week. So I approached the owner about a pay raise, since I was doing more prep and cooking than what the few hours here and there were that we talked about, and felt it was only fair that I'm paid the rate that coincides with my tasks. He says I was employed as a dishwasher and that's what I'm paid to do. Cue malicious compliance. 2 days later, the chef leaves early for an emergency appointment. Since it was a weekday and usually quiet, there was no one else to cook. My boss asked me to prep salad stuff for the sandwiches and keep the hot chips cooking as they have a line out the door waiting on hot chips. My response? Sorry, you only pay me to wash dishes and that's what I'm doing. I had the pleasure of watching the owner stumble around the kitchen for the rest of the day, trying to keep up and find the stuff he needed. There were a lot of angry customers who got refunds due to the long wait. I think he lost more on that one day than the extra wages he would have paid me for a month on top of my dishwasher wages. I ended up walking out a few weeks later, due to being yelled at and abused for refusing to do more than my dishwashing job. The same day 3 other staff walked as well, due to bad treatment. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Have a great day, bye bye.